Hello, preschoolers! It's teacher Genevieve, and I'm going to read you a book that I love very much by Oliver Jeffers, called This Moose Belongs to Me. Let's see what happens. Here's the cover. Wilfred owned a moose. He hadn't always owned a moose. The moose came to him a while ago, and he just knew, that it was meant to be his. He thought he would call him Marcel. That name tag says Marcel. Marcel the moose. He began following Marcel, explaining the rules of how to be a good pet. What do you think he's telling the moose to do there? Much of the time, it seemed as though the moose wasn't listening, but Wilfred knew he was. Mostly because he followed Rule 4 very well, not making too much noise while Wilfred plays his record collection. Sometimes the moose wasn't a very good pet. He generally ignored Rule 7, going whichever way Wilfred wants to go. The moose had a very good sense of direction, and Wilfred did not. And because the moose was particularly poor on Rule 7 subsection B, maintaining a certain proximity to home. A certain proximity means being pretty close to home. Wilfred quickly learned to bring some string along on their outings so he could find his way back again. He's got some string right there. Sometimes the moose was an excellent pet. He had no trouble with Rule 11, providing shelter from the rain. Or Rule 16, knocking down things that are out of Wilfred's reach. And right here Wilfred says, "Good work." One day, as Wilfred discussed their plans for the coming year on a particularly long walk, he made a terrible discovery. So these are his plans of what they will do. And he's got his string. Someone else thought she owned the moose. This person says, "Rodrigo, you're back." Wilfred was dumbstruck. The moose was Marcel, not Rodrigo. The old lady was mistaken, and Wilfred thought it only proper that he correct her. "This moose belongs to me," he explained. To prove it, he called Marcel heel. That means come here. But the moose did not respond. He seemed interested in the old lady. "Good, Rodrigo," she says. Embarrassed and enraged, Wilfred rushed off for home. Fine. But in his haste, and miles from anywhere, he tripped over the string and got tangled up. Oh no. And there he lay. Wilfred was beginning to get a little bit worried. It was getting late, and the monsters would be out soon. There's Wilfred under the tree, still tangled up in his string. He had just ruled out the last of his options. Let's see what he's thinking of. A penguin. What is this? A saw. A bear with an axe. A shark with a saw nose, saying no problem, and Wilfred says thanks. Lightning and a hammer. But who's that? When along came the moose. And performed Rule 73 brilliantly, rescuing your owner from perilous situations. What do you think perilous means? I wonder. All was forgiven, and perhaps, Wilfred admitted, he never really owned the moose anyway. There's the Marcel tag on the ground, torn in half. Are these two pages stuck together? Yes, they are. There we go. With that in mind, he and the moose reached a compromise. The moose would agree to all of Wilfred's rules. Whenever it suited him. He's saying, hey, come here. And the moose is saying, no thanks. Oh, here's another person. It says, Dominic, you're back. And you brought me an apple. And that's the end of this story. I like this story. The moose kind of does whatever he wants. And the people get excited to see him whenever he comes around. And I think that's nice. Have a good day.